had to fight for his life after simply answering the front door. Many residents offered an alternative proposal, moving the Tawney bust in front of the Tawney house in downtown Frederick. Family and friends tell me Smelser was an incredible swimmer, and at the age of 79, they say he was doing the backstroke in the shallow water you see behind me when they say something just went wrong. Police reports indicate Stacy's body was found in a wooded area like this one just 2 days before Christmas. The officials say the new policy is focused on training, prevention, and education. According to city officials, early estimations predict the facility would create over 280 jobs and bring in $25 million annually to the city. Griffin says the reason for the lease increase is largely due to pressure by the FAA in order to keep their rates competitive. These dogs might look cute, but they go through over 2 years of training and day and night operational exercises. They are currently seizing 5 times the amount of heroin than they were 2 years ago.
Baltimore City has been, quote, the heroin capital for 50 years.
A recovering heroin addict, former Baltimore County drug czar Mike Gimbel says a lot has changed in his city since the 1970s.
We have a lot of heroin addicts there, but now most of the deaths from heroin are not from the city, they're from the suburbs.
While Baltimore may be considered a major port for heroin distribution, Frederick County deputies say it's seeping into our suburbs.
We have residents that go down to Baltimore, they buy their drugs, they come back up, they use, then they commit the thefts and the burglaries around in the area to support their habit, and they go back down. It's a continuous cycle.
According to the sheriff's office, 32 people in Frederick County died in 2014 from overdosing on heroin. But deputies say heroin is surprisingly not the root of the problem.
The problem kind of stems from the prescription addiction that users have, and then when they can't get the prescription drugs, then they turn to heroin because they get the same kind of high.
With County Executive Jan Gardner adding 4 deputies to the sheriff's office staff in her 2016 budget proposal, deputies say they're not sure if those men and women will end up on their drug enforcement unit. But Gimbel believes simply enforcing the law is just one part of solving Frederick's growing drug problem.
The reality is we're not going to arrest our way out of the problem. We're going to have to treat our way out of the problem, yet the money for treatment doesn't exist.
We've got a lot of issues facing us, and this to me is a no-brainer.
The face of Roger B. Taney, the 5th Chief Supreme Court Justice of the United States, a former Fredericktonian and the author of the pro-slavery Dred Scott decision suppressing the rights of black slaves, is facing public scrutiny once again. It's the second recorded attempt in addressing the bust and its location. But Frederick's new NAACP president, Hayden Duke, says in 1865 there was a discussion to move the bust from Frederick to Washington, D.C.
Granted, he did make many decisions, and he was involved in our government for many years, but the Dred Scott decision and the language that went well beyond the decision is just, it's reprehensible. It was criticized then, rightfully, and it's criticized now.
Alderwoman Donna Kazemchuk proposed Wednesday night that the bus be moved from city grounds but not destroyed, responding to citizen comments urging officials not to erase a part of history.
Dred Scott decision was made. It is part of history. I don't want any of us sitting here to think that I am trying to pretend that that decision was never made.
It's their personal pets, so they're basically pets with jobs.
The volunteer-based Western Maryland Canine Search and Rescue Team is the only air-sent canine team from Frederick to Cumberland. Team leader Kurt Hornacek says dog noses are hundreds of times more sensitive than human noses, with the ability to pick up pheromones and even skin cells off people.
The dogs are wilderness air scent, so basically that means they pick up any human scent in an area. So we train them basically on a game of hide and seek. We make finding people fun and a game.
So these dogs might look cute, but they go through over 2 years of training and day and night operational exercises. Dogs like Bentley are instructed to go find a team member hidden throughout the woods.
You want to go where? Go find.
Return back to their handlers. And finally, lead the way for their human handlers to rescue the individual.
Show me. What a good boy!
The team is comprised of about 10 to 14 dogs and their owners. Canine handler Bill Blackwelder says the dogs feed off excitement and pressure of a real-life rescue scenario.
When you take them out in a real-world situation, they feel the tension, they feel the excitement, they get excited, and they work all that much harder.
And with spending time together at work and at home, Dogs and their handlers have an undeniable connection.
Spending this much time with a dog, you develop a bond that's just unbelievable. He knows you can read him and he can read you.
Reporting in Frederick County, Maryland, Kayla Brandon, WHAG News.
16 counties in 4 states. You're watching WHAG, your local news leader at 6.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kayla Brandon. We begin this morning in Washington County, where deputies say a fatal motorcycle accident killed a Shepherdstown man late last night. We begin our national headlines a little closer to home in Chevy Chase, Maryland, where a woman and her child were severely injured after receiving an electrical shock when they went into the basement of their home yesterday afternoon. Nepal children who couldn't return to their damaged schools have been studying under tents set up by non-government organization Plan International. Goes directly back to fund the county's drug unit. Live in Frederick, Kayla Brandon, WHAG News.